everyone. Welcome to another episode of Keeping Up the Conversation. I'm your host, Miss Tori, and that young man on the other side of that screen is my super duper co-host, Big Ken.
What's up?
Hey, happy Wednesday to you.
It's Wednesday. It's hump day.
It is.
Yeah, so close, but yet so far.
Oh, I know. You're almost there. Like you said, it's hump day. So let's
Yeah,
let's
I mean, the good thing about Wednesday is we're here, so that's
yeah, that
great.
that is the most important thing. So, all right. So at the top of the hour, we always start the show off with our hot topics, and you know what? So, all right. So, hot topic number one. A Colorado police officers were accused of assaulting a 73-year-old woman, Karen Gardner, who has dementia, uh, was taken into custody after she had, or well, I guess, yeah, she did. She tried to leave a Walmart without paying for a candy bar, a t-shirt, and some other items, which total about $13.88. So the officers came, they watched the video, they saw her, and then they arrested her, and she repeatedly told the officers that she's going home, she just wants to go home. And then one of the officers, Officer Hops, takes her to the ground and handcuffs her after a struggle with Hop and a second officer identified in a lawsuit that was issued. The officer was Daria Jalila. Gardner is then, listen to this, Gardner is then 73 years old, hog-tied at her ankles and forced into the police car. Mind you, man, 73 years old. So anyway, in the lawsuit that was filed, it states that Garner was bleeding from the nose, forehead, and wrist all over herself, and she was crying. She just crying for home. She just wanted to go home. The Loveland Police Department said last week that the arresting officer was placed on administrative leave. During an inquiry of the encounter, a supervising officer was also involved in the arrest. Was reassigned to administrative duties. Big Ken, 73 years old. I mean, still in a shirt, candy, a candy bar, a t-shirt, and some other items totaling $13.88. Come on now.
Yeah, I mean, with these things, when these type of things happen, well, I know they always talk about police officers and sensitivity training. I think you have to use better judgment when you're dealing with things because you can't tell me this 73-year-old woman presented that much of a threat to you that you would have to, apply this much force to her. So, I
Yeah.
mean, I understand, the police officers are trained to go through certain procedures, but I mean, of course, we know that that's not always the same across the board. So, it's one of those weird things where at the end of the day, this shouldn't have happened.
Right. I
I
agree.
mean, let's just be honest. This type of thing should never happen, especially to an elderly person. I
Yeah.
mean, now if you got somebody that's strong or that's has a weapon or something like that,
Yeah,
then
or that's causing that makes you fear for your
yeah,
life, as a police officer, or like you said, has a weapon or something. But I mean, she had a candy bar, a T-shirt, and some other items. I mean, that's just ridiculous. But I will say this, that the officers can also, I believe that once they got her back to the police station, um, one of the officers can be heard saying something like, "Can you hear the pop?" or something like that. But what ended up happening is that she ended up dislocating her shoulder, and they laughed about it.
mm,
Yeah, and they laughed about it, and they were saying, they can be heard on the video saying, "Can you hear the pop?" So, you know, I don't know what kind of keep up with this story. So,
yeah, that's a
um,
sensitivity training deal. There's
exactly.
no way you should be dealing with an elderly person of to that magnitude or with that level of force. It just doesn't
Yeah.
make any sense.
Yeah. And another story: a white commission member in North Carolina has been ousted after he defiantly refused to reference a black woman's doctoral title. Greensboro zoning commission member Tony Collins had his position revoked by the city council this week after he had an intense exchange with Carrie Rosario, a doctor and associate professor at UNC Greensboro. Now, the incident occurred around the end of a 4-hour zoning commission meeting where Rosario expressed concern about a development project that was taking place near her home. Well, during the televised meeting, Collins Collins was seen combating Rosario over her request to be referred to as Dr. Rosario and not Miss Rosario title he proceeded to call her. So an argument ended up taking place. And so she said, "It's Dr. Rosario. Thank you, sir." And he replied, "If Miss Rosario has something to say, and he continued to call her Miss Rosario. And nevertheless, she stood her ground. And Collins had, after he was ousted, removed from the commission. He reportedly tried to reach out to Rosario since the meeting to apologize, but the Greensboro City Council members still came together to vote him out of the zoning commission. You know, what's funny about this story is that sometimes, like, I have a long term relationship with my doctors, and sometimes I'll call them by their first name. And but I think that they don't correct me because of the long-term relationship.
Yeah.
But I correct myself because I want to let you know that I respect your title. And I don't understand why Mr. Collins, this on the city council, could not respect Dr. Rosario's title. It's very unfortunate that you cannot bring yourself to recognize you know, a person's title, Dr.
Yeah, this is in
Rosario.
a professional
Yeah,
setting. So when you're in a professional
exactly.
setting, everything is Mr., Miss, or if they have gone through the trials and tribulations of school and the academic rigors to be called a doctor, then they should be addressed as such. So,
Exactly.
and this is to me a professional, Zoom call, a professional environment. So you
Mhm.
should, be called by whatever title that you've earned.
Exactly.
It's just
I
that simple.
I agree. Well, because of his stubbornness, he is no longer on the zoning commission. So, okay. Bye, Mr. Collins. Okay. So anyway, I'm not really big on I'm not really big on gossip or rumors, but the reason I'm bringing this next topic is because I like one of the people. So, all right. So, Kim Kardashian's recent post about her post about that she's something about like she may be dating Van Jones. So she has all her fans kind of up in an uproar. Van Jones is a CNN political contributor and the host of the Van Jones show. Um, they said that they had a relationship before. This is the rumor. I don't know, but I have not been able to find anything about those two, having something in the past. I know with Kim Kardashian moving forward with her divorce from Kanye, fans are now kind of focused on who she might date next. While she does reportedly want to romance an artist the next time around. Many on social media are circling back to CNN personality Van Jones for Kardashian because of her continuing interest in pursuing her law degree. Now, rumors about the two originated early this year, in January amid the Kardashian and West split, but their friendship goes all the way back to 2018 when they were keynote speakers at Rolling Stone's Criminal Justice Reform Summit. But social media is still kind of being pretty cruel about this idea, suggesting that Kardashian is using Jones to get the law career that she wants. We'll just have to kind of keep up with, we'll kind of have to keep up with this hot topic because the thing about this is what is Van Jones gonna do? I
I
mean,
mean, he
sure, she
has
can kind of.
pull. He has
He does,
pull.
but yeah, but okay, come on now. I know we can't go long on this topic, but come on. Kim Kardashian is a reality star, and we know that her dad was an attorney and she wants to
Yeah,
follow in his footsteps. I get that and
yeah.
I understand that. But I don't, I'm not, I don't want to be mean. I don't want to talk about it, but the intellect between Kim Kardashian and her dad are very different.
I don't
So
know.
I don't know.
I've never talked to Kim,
I don't
so I
know.
can't I can't say that. That's just based on what we see. But it's
Yeah.
also her character as she plays on whatever show in front of the cameras. She
Right.
might be somebody totally
Yeah, you're
different
right.
off the cameras. So I'm
You're
not gonna
right.
base it on that. But I will address the fact that Van Jones, my brother, if you know what we know, you probably need to stay away from Kim Kardashian.
Yeah, good, actually, yeah. All
I
right.
don't
Now,
think you I think you want those problems.
I think you might want to keep it moving, but until then, it's time for Big Ken's fun facts.
Yeah, yeah. Now, y'all know every week I search high and low for some good fun facts for you to introduce you to something that I probably am pretty sure you're gonna be like, I didn't even know that. So this week, I wanted to bring you a sweet topic. And you know why I say a sweet topic?
You talk about me?
Because no, not at all.
Okay,
Not at all.
okay.
I didn't say Sour Patch Kid. I said sweet, not sweet and sour. I said
Haha.
sweet. So, with that being said, I wanted to bring you something that was a little sweet. It's talking about candy, one of my favorite candies. I'm talking about M&Ms. Now, I know M&Ms are one of everybody's favorite candies. There's certain people out there who may be, under the impression that they don't like M&Ms of some sort, but their M&M comes in various varieties now. So I'm pretty sure there's some type of M&M product that will float your boat that you will like. Me personally, I like peanut butter M&Ms. People might say that that's gross, but I like peanut butter M&Ms. So, with that being said, I was sitting there thinking as I had peanut butter M&Ms, I was like, where does the name M&M actually come from? So I did some digging, and you know where the name M&M actually comes from? These fellas, Forrest Mars and Bruce Murray, M and M. Now, when you talk about Mars, people will play that name and say, okay, Mars, as far as M&M Mars, the company. But these two came together after a while and they formed the company M&M. Now, separate from Mars. So this was M&M, right? And they brought up this candy that they discovered when they were actually overseas in the military, and the Spanish had a chocolate covered in hard candy. So they brought it back, and they were like, "Okay, well, we're gonna mass market this." And Forrest Mars bought Murray in and offered him a 20% stake in the company. Now, get this: Murray is the son of Hershey executive. So,
I didn't know
side
that.
note, when M&Ms were first made, they were made with Hershey's chocolate. So we
See,
know
I didn't know
now
that.
that M&M, Mars, and Hershey's are two of the biggest competitors in the candy game. So that's a that's a
Something
that's a
happened in there.
yeah, that's a weird little deal that
Yeah.
I was like, whoa, this threw me for a loop. So eventually the two got into it. They had a tumultuous business partnership. So they parted ways, and Mars bought the 20% share of the company back from Murray for $1 million. But this is in
Wow.
1948. But this is
That's
in
a lot of money back
1948.
then.
So that was a
Yeah.
lot. That was a lot of money
Yeah.
back
That
then.
was a lot of money. Yeah.
So, but in the grand scheme of things, it wasn't such wasn't such a good deal because that company today, I think I saw in the thing, I didn't put it on my notes. It's somewhere $48 billion or something crazy like that. So,
Wow.
like, yeah, I mean,
That billion
he's
is that thing is like a drop in the bucket.
yeah,
It's
but I mean, hey, Hershey's is doing pretty good themselves, so I'm pretty
yeah.
sure he didn't fall off the map or
Yeah.
anything like that.
Yeah. Of
But
course.
I thought it was interesting that the fact that we look at the M&M and we never really think about where did the name M&M actually come from, a Mars
Yeah.
bar, and we look at these candies and we see the similarities, but the similarities are there because the companies were really close at the beginning. So it's kind of like a I say DC comic and Marvel where you look at the characters and you're like that character is kind of like this character. Well, they have candy that are kind of like the other candy, so they're comparable. But I just wanted to bring you all that fun fact about M&Ms, and if you're not on a diet or eating clean or something like that, which I am right now, so I can eat M&Ms, go get you a bag and enjoy the sweetness.
Again, I always like your fun facts is because they are it's fun and it's facts, and also just to learn or to know the business behind certain things that happen. Like last week we know we had the extreme ironing. We didn't know that was a sport, and then and this week we have the M&Ms. You talk about the
Oh,
business behind it.
and let me add this: the first candy in space, M&Ms, peanut M&Ms. My second
Really?
favorite. My
There's so
second
many.
favorite, peanut
Oh man,
M&Ms.
so many people are allergic to that. We can't have that in space. Yeah.
Hey, peanut M&Ms are the highest selling M&M out there. So go figure.
Oh my God. Well, thank you, Big Ken, for your fun facts. We always
No problem.
enjoy that. So, our guest today has a career that expands almost 40 years. His Fix Yourself Handbook has received the Silver Award from the Nonfiction Authors Association, the Gold Award from Literary Titan, and the Bronze Award from Reader's Favorite. He has a appeared on countless television, radio shows, and podcasts. Welcome to the show, Faust Ruggiero.
Thank you, Tori. Thanks for having me.
Hey, yeah, welcome. It's so good to have you on the show. I know that, before we came on the show, you gave me the go ahead that I can talk and I could ask you some questions.
You can,
But I'm
but
gonna
I have to interrupt you because something real important. You know, Big Ken,
okay.
Mars M&M's is like half an hour from my house. That's
Oh,
another fact.
wow.
And I know
Oh,
some of their executives, so maybe I could like get you a job or something there because you get all the M&M's you want free then.
I don't. I would be really Big Ken then.
oh my gosh. See, another fact for Faust. Okay. All right. All right. So you started this path on helping others almost 40 years ago. I mean, you worked in clinics for deaf children, prisons, substance abuse facilities, and nursing homes. I mean, just to name a few, but where did the desire to help others come from? Because we need more of that.
You know, that was something I get that question a lot. Where did it all start from? And I was that kid, that you grew up with that everyone talked to. I love to be around people. I don't care what kind of people. I just love to be around people. You learn so much from so many different kinds of people. So I'm a good listener. I like people. I like to solve problems. So it just kind of took off. I was doing this since I was a kid. And then, I went to college and psychology, and it was graduate school and all those things came out. And, there it was, just wide open for me to pick what I wanted to do. So I thought I'd go take some of the difficult ones first, prison, that kind of thing. And that's one of the best experiences of my life, counseling. I did counselor for about 5 years in a prison. And, you start to really learn what the important things in life are all about. It's not all this little petty stuff we all get into, So the perspective changes, and then private practice came, and it just took off from there.
So okay, so you mentioned prisons, and one of the things that I automatically thought about is like, how do you motivate and encourage somebody that's in prison? It's like that they don't you are dealing with so many personalities. It's like, I don't want to hear, you cannot motivate me. I am going to be in here for 2 to 10 years. So how do you set someone down and motivate and encourage them so that when they get out into the world, they don't repeat what got them there?
You know, when you get into that environment, you start to realize how important it is just to be able to unconditionally take another human being and just say, "You're good." So they've never heard it. You know, so many people come from so many different stories in a jail, but what so few of them have heard is, "You're a good person. There's a lot of good stuff in there, and I like you unconditionally, and I look forward to seeing you every day." When you start from that place, and I don't care whether it's in jail or it's in our country with what's going on, if you look at another person and you say, "You know what, I love you for the way you are," it takes off right from there, and that person's now willing to listen to you a little bit, and then you start working that relationship, and the trust begins to build. And once it builds, then they're going to say, "Well, maybe you got something I can listen to. I wasn't going to listen to you before because I'm hearing the same message from you I heard from
Right.
everyone else, but I
Mhm.
heard a different one here." And if you can take that message to another human being, you already drew them into your own heart, and then you operate from there.
Right. So just to kind of give our viewers kind of a peek inside why we're kind of talking about motivation and encouraging is because you authored this awesome book, the Fix Yourself Handbook. Kind of give our viewers a little information about the book.
When I designed the book, I wanted it to be something that was a little different than all these self-help books. I didn't want it to be fluff. I didn't want it to be trendy and have all the usual topics, the mindfulness and the trending acronyms and all that. I wanted it to be a straightforward, practical book that anyone at all, I don't care whether you're older or younger, your race, your gender, your sexuality, religion, anything. I wanted anyone to be able to come in and say, "This is a program I can work." And what I do in my counseling with people is I want them to learn how to be strong people on the inside. I want them to feel confident and powerful inside. And in order to do that, you got to go inside and get all the things that you already have, because they're already there. It's another reason why I can go into a jail or wherever and work with people, because what I'm giving them, they already, or what it sounds like I'm giving them, they already have. I'm just uncovering things and helping them to get there. So I want it to be something to be practical that anyone could read. And then, but I wanted to do something a little different. I wanted the chapters to be shorter. Instead of 5 or 6 topics like self-help books tend to be, I wanted to be lots of them. So there's 36 in there. And at the end of every chapter, I want to be able to say, okay, you got the information. Now do exactly these things. Keep repeating them, and your life's going to get better. I want it to be a practical, very workable book. So it took about
And
3.5 years to write it, to get exactly where I wanted it. But now it's out there, and it's doing some things for the people.
it truly is. I've read a lot about the book, about you and what you're doing, and so I'm like, okay, there's a couple of things that I wanted to sort of maybe parallel them with what's going on in society, or just kind of what's going on with people. And one of the chapters that I like is called "The Envy Thief," which is, when many people feel they don't measure up to other people, and um, uh, which sometimes can be hard to escape. And I learned that there are people that sometimes that may have it all, but you don't know what's going on. Well, on you, they appear to you that they have it all, but you don't know what's going on inside them. So, I is there a way to get out of the envy box? Like, how do you overcome envy?
The first thing you do is to stop looking at those other people. You said a mouthful. I don't care how, the more glitter, the more problems. It doesn't matter. We all have issues. Here's the 3 of us talking here. We all have a personal life. We all have things that maybe don't work too well. We want to make a little better. And we look at someone else, and they, because we're all putting on a face when we go out there. And we're all throwing the game out there and saying, look at me. But behind all that, that's where all the feelings and the fears and the insecurities are, and we all have them. So, the first thing I tell people is try to get your mind off that other person. Develop your own game. Develop what you want to get to move forward. Keep working on that, and focus on the inside. The problem isn't on the outside. The problem isn't that you don't have what that other person has. The problem is you don't have what you want. So develop that, and that's what we do in the book and in the whole program. Let's get you strong so you don't have to look at someone else.
Mhm.
Look at you.
Right. Let me just say this real quick, because this is like, it's kind of like, you hear people say the slang. Okay, so this is real talk. Okay, so you know how you pull up, and this is real, and I know you're gonna laugh at me, but look, when you pull up and you've been working really, really hard, and you pull up and you have this little, I don't know, this Toyota Corolla, and then you pull up next to someone that's driving a Mercedes, and you look at them. Seriously, I mean, this is like problems for people. You pull up to them and you wish that that person did not have that car. That's like
Wow.
this mental mindset thing. It's like, I wish you didn't have that car. Why is it they have that car and I don't? Um, but according to you, Faust, there is that problem can be solved. I mean, how do you get inside that person's head to let them understand it's okay that you don't have that Mercedes and you drive the Toyota Corolla?
I tell them that anything you want in life can be yours if you have a plan to make that happen. I
Thanks.
don't care whether it's a personal plan. I don't care if it's what's going on in our nation and we want to get everybody on the same page. I keep on hearing all the things that are going to happen. I said, well, what's the plan to make that happen? No plan, no game. It's not going to happen. It's as simple as that. So I tell people, let's get a plan. But the key is be willing to like the plan you're working with. If you think
Mhm.
this is going to be work, you're going to stop. You got to develop a plan. You got to almost fall in love with that plan, because you're going to be doing that every single day of your life. And my feeling is, I feel I'm worth it to work my plan and get better every day. And that's what I try to get to people.
Mhm.
You got to know you're worth it. You got to know you're worth all the effort and anything that it takes to get you where you need to go, because that's should be the same thing for all of us. But you got to feel it inside first. If you don't feel it there, it's not going to happen.
And I
But you
think
oh,
too
go ahead. I'm
when
sorry.
yeah, I think too when you look at the MVPs, what I've always been taught is, are you willing to do what that person did to get what they got? You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
And that's the mentality you got to look at. So if you don't know what that person did to get what they got, then it's much harder to envy something than you don't know what they did, because once you find out what people do to get what they have, then you kind of look at it from a different standpoint of, maybe I don't want that.
You know,
Right.
it's interesting you say that. The first television thing I did, they had us walking. It was shot in a diner, so they had me walking from the car to the door, and it took us about 4 minutes, 5 minutes to shoot this thing, and it was like in 8 segments. And I said, "Is this what you do all the time?" And the guy said, "Oh, yeah, this is just routine. You want to do a television show? They got all for an hour, maybe 1,000 shoots." And I'm saying, "Okay." They have, they have the gowns and the big house and the cars and the whole deal. But in the meantime, they work 7 days a week, 12, 15 hours. Everybody's got a piece of them. You look at those all celebrities and they look real neat, but the agents got this piece and the producers got that piece, and this guy over here is exploiting them on something. You just brought that whole thing up with the Kardashian thing. What's her game? What's this whole strategy she's looking for? Well, they live that all the time. So are you willing to be in that
Right.
position? Are
Right.
you the person that's willing to take the shots? How thick is your skin? Because that's what's going to get you what you want.
Hmm. There are a lot of people that right now that and I know but they lack the internal strength to move forward in life, and therefore they never have any progression. What are a few ways to reduce fear and anger about our own lives? Because before you answer, I'll tell you this: there's like this inner part of me that's really really strong, but Big Ken will tell you it took me forever to want to do this show, because I always thought, oh, well, well, people are gonna laugh at this because I have a big nose, and people are gonna, and it was like I had this internal strength, but I could not bring it out. And so it took kind of like me saying to myself, you are who you are, do what you do. And so, but I'm different from everyone else. So I want you, in your professional opinion, just kind of give people a few tips to reduce the fear and maybe even anger about their own lives.
We're taught to do this. That's the problem. We're taught to think negatively. We're taught to think with anger. We think anger is power. Um, you know, I do a whole chapter on language and the way we speak to ourselves, and it's negative. We tell ourselves just what you said. Well, I'm on camera now. Oh my God, my hair, this, my ears are too big. All these things, and they're all
Yeah.
saying this, but that's not the case. And even if it were, who cares? That's but we're taught to tell ourselves, I can't, I'll never get there, they won't like me. And then once we do that, we start trying to even the playing field. Well, let me get a little anger in their direction. Let me kind of cut them down a little bit. And before you know it, it's a vicious game that never stops. The first thing I tell people to do is start with the I can. I can do this. You know what? I don't care if I fail 20 times, because maybe number 21 is going to be my time. I'm going to keep on doing it, because every one of those little failures, as people, I call them gifts, because that just gets you to the next step. Don't be afraid of that. Get out there, get your plan, get it out there and do it, and keep telling yourself you can. You will do it. You know what? It just takes time. These people that we're envying didn't get there overnight. Then, that old story, they saw them on the stool in the drugstore, and oh my God, I'm going to make you a star. It
Mhm.
doesn't work that way. They kicked them around for a while, and then those people finally rose above it. That's the
Mhm.
way everything works. We have to be willing to do that. How hard, you said it, how hard are you willing to work? If that guy got it, why can't I? What did he do differently than me? So I keep
Mhm.
on telling myself, it's when I wrote the book. I said, no, I write a book, and then I got to go through all. And when I started looking at what you have to do to publish a book, and agents and publishing houses, which are insane, they told me, oh no, one or two topics, and you've got to write it for women between 18 and 45. And I said, that's all? I said, what, the guys don't get anything here? So you
Right.
have to challenge some of those limits too. That's the other part of it. Stop believing what other people tell you can't do. You
That's a
know,
good point. I like that one. That's a
yeah,
good point.
they tell you think outside of the box, and I always say discard the box, forget it.
Yeah,
Yep.
One doesn't exist.
yeah.
They're trying to tell you that because you're supposed to fit into it. It doesn't exist. You
Mhm.
know, if someone puts a limitation in front of you, look at it and say, does it belong there? And if it doesn't, challenge it. So I challenged it, and I actually had two agents, and I got to the point where I said goodbye to both of them and did it myself. And the
Wow.
whole thing has been done by myself. I mean, I have a team that I put together, but I decided that I wasn't gonna take that all that garbage and have, you know. And by the time they're done, and you take all their garbage, then they say, okay, well, I'll take 20% for my cut to get you the deal with the publisher. And the publisher says, well, I get 60% of the book. And by the time you're done, you did all the work for about 12%. I said, well,
Right.
I know,
Yeah.
uh, you know, so you have to have that willingness to get out there and go and never stop.
Right.
Yep.
I love that advice. Yeah. I love that.
You miss every shot you don't take. So that's
That's
what I
right.
was always taught. So
That's
That's
you
what I
just
was
true.
taught too.
have to jump out there and be willing to take the criticism, be willing to hear the things that are negative. But again, like you were saying, you have to build yourself up and learn how to talk to yourself. And I think that's a key thing that people got to remember too, is we're taught to learn how to talk to others, but we don't know how to talk to ourselves, how to build ourselves up. And I think that's key as well.
It is
Right.
because whatever you say to yourself, your brain hears. And I always
Mhm.
tell people the way learning is repetition over time. And if you're going to keep time after time telling yourself you don't measure up, or the world's not going to let you in, or that person doesn't like me, this is unfair, that's what you get to live with because you're telling yourself
Yeah.
that. But if you tell yourself, no, no, I can do this. And
Mhm.
it's not just about if I get knocked down, you are going to get knocked down. Factor
Yeah.
that into the plan. Because if you think that world out there is going to say, "Oh, you're trying, so let me let you right in," because my God, we reward for effort. It's like the old days when 20 years ago, everybody got trophies for being in soccer. Well, it doesn't work that way. You're going to get knocked down, and you got to factor that in and be willing to get right back up there
Yeah.
and go again. And it's just the way it is. If you're willing to do that, how can you fail?
You don't lose, you learn. So
That's right.
every time you say what the young people say now, they take a L. Every time you take a L, you're learning, and that's what you have to take from
Yeah.
it. So next time you know what caused you to
Yeah.
lose, you won't repeat that same mistake. So it's something to learn in every mistake or every loss
Right.
that you have.
And another thing is, you said the word
Yeah.
learn. You have to keep being a student of life. You got to keep on wanting to learn. Here are three of us talking. I already know that I will leave this with some new perspectives. They may come to me right after we stop, or I may think about them tomorrow. But again, I had the opportunity to be able to sit down with both of you, and I'm going to I'm going to grab something from this. So, the other thing I tell people is you have something to offer the world. But if you don't do it, you deprive yourself and the world of that knowledge.
I
You know,
love that.
so,
Yeah.
so
I
you
love
know,
that.
don't do that. Don't do that to yourself. Don't anytime. And that's just the way our society is. We keep pushing people down, and then we don't learn from that segment of the population. I don't care what segment it is. The more people we let in, the better it all works because that's the way it's supposed to be. And you got to feel that way about yourself too. I belong in the game. I'm going to get in there and I'm going to learn, and it's going to take me a while. There's a learning curve. I got to learn what I'm doing here, but I'm going to master that. I'm going to get in. I'm going to make my statement, and I'm going to make that little change in the world that I'm able to make.
Yeah, I think a lot of people
Now I
don't
wanna,
see their value. So
oh, go ahead.
that's no, go ahead, go ahead.
Oh, no, someone sent me a question, but no, you go ahead. I
No,
wanna,
I was just saying, I think a
I
lot of
always
people don't
like
see the value in themselves and the work that they do. So it's harder for them to, to talk, positive for themselves and to boost themselves up. And all too often, especially now with social media, we look to others to too much to pour into us when we don't even pour into ourselves enough.
that's true.
And that's a problem because the message we get
Yeah.
is positive there.
Not at all. Social
Yeah.
media is very savage.
Yes,
So,
Yeah.
if you're waiting
Yes.
for somebody to pat you on your back on social media,
Yeah,
you're
or
sadly
validate you.
mistaken. Yeah, yeah. And I think that's what's wrong with a lot of these kids or the younger people is they go to social media for validation and for, for solutions. And then they go there and they actually talk to these kids, and these kids are pretty mean. These kids are,
Yeah.
they're very critical of each other, and I think it's not it's not a great place to seek feedback per se. So, I think if we have that conversation with ourselves, learn how to talk to ourselves a little bit more in a correct manner, learn how to have self motivation, then we won't look for outside people to provide that for us.
And that's exactly what I'm
Oh yeah.
teaching. Everything we have is right inside us. We just stopped using it. We think we have to get everything from the outside world. The way we do things, we have to get verification of the way we think and feel, and we hope that they like us, because the way the world is now, it says, well, if you not don't like my way, well, then I don't like you, and I don't know where that came from. If you don't like my
Right.
way, I like to know why. Maybe I'll learn something from you. Maybe you'll learn something from me. Let's have a conversation.
Yeah.
But we're not doing that
Hmm.
anymore. We're going to conclusions real
Oh yeah.
fast. And we're making judgments about
Oh
them.
yeah.
All the learning
And
stops.
people don't like the process. They don't want to go through the process. They want to go from the beginning to the end. And what about all this stuff that's going to help you in the middle? What about if like I always hear a lot of authors or game changers talk about breadcrumbs. There are these breadcrumbs, but you're going to miss them if you don't start at the beginning, the process, go through it, and then get to the end. And so I think that a lot of people just don't have the pay. To me, especially the young people right now, I just don't feel like they have the patience to see things through. It's too many jumping too quick. Um, but so Faust, someone asked a question, and it kind of relates to chapter 2, a practical formula to fix your life. They say, how do I? Oh, why do people have such a problem removing dysfunction from their lives?
Mm.
You know, we are creatures of habit, and the way the brain works is to keep us as happy as it can at all times. So what we tend to do is we get into comfort zones, and then we go on autopilot and we try to keep those comfort zones in play at all times. But the comfort zone is not a place for learning. It's not a place to take risks or any chances. It doesn't stretch us beyond our limits. And all those processes you're talking about, that's where they live. They live in the chances we take, in the growth, and how we expand ourselves. So when we get into that process, we need to move forward. It's all about challenging oneself. It's about taking risks. It's about you said it well. Big Ken says, well, you can do this. You say, no, I can't do this show. Yes, you can. And obviously she's good. I mean, there's no doubt about that. But you challenged yourself. You got it. And I tell people, try to get comfortable with the
Right.
understanding that you're going to get uncomfortable, but that uncomfortable feeling is only going to last for a while, because your
Hmm.
brain will adapt to that. It'll become your new comfort zone. Once you're there a while, you challenge that again. It's a constant challenge, get comfortable, challenge, get comfortable. If you can program that into your life, then that is in essence your breadcrumbs. That's what it does. Well, I'm going to challenge myself. I'm going to learn this. I'm going to feel uncomfortable. Maybe I'm going to get afraid. Maybe I'm going to fall down and I'm going to really mess it all up. Then I'm going to get back up, try it again. Okay, I got comfortable now. Now should I just sit here? Is that where my ceiling is? Do I want to try it again? Let me see how high I can go. I'll challenge it again. And when you get comfortable doing that, every day becomes a whole new beginning. And it's just a really nice way to live life.
Yeah, and I really love that advice. And I think that people are loving you, Faust, because we are getting so many so many comments for you. And the thing that I want to do is, because I know it's crazy, because I'm a journalist and I love talking to people. But the thing, when it came to doing this podcast, I didn't want to do it. I just felt like it was a real challenge. And what I want to do is take some words from you, Faust, when you said you have to challenge yourself. You fall, you get right back up. You're gonna learn something, like Big Ken said. You learn. So I want to challenge people from looking at this show to do something that you fear, do something that you really, really want to do, but it's just bothering the heck out of you to do it. Take me, for example. I'm telling you, when it came to doing this show, I can't express it enough how nervous I was. But I'm like, I know it's like, okay, I have all these tools and resources. I want to share them with the world. And the only way that I'm going to do it is I'm going to have to do it. And that's what I did. And so you're going to have to take that fear and, good, bad, or indifferent, fail or whatever. You're going to have to take something. You're going to have to take it, turn it into some knowledge, learn from it, and keep moving. So, yeah, Faust, one of my favorite chapters in your book is, I'm going to have to read a little bit about this, but I want to read this. One of my favorite chapters in your book is chapter 7, Life is a Journey, Love Yours. And so I want to read what you wrote about the chapter. Regardless of how we interpret life, it is a journey that begins at birth and concludes when we take our last breath. It's what we do between those two life points that defines who we are. That is so deep. I want to ask you, is it possible to be happy in all the days of our lives as we are living them? Is it possible to be happy and enjoy life every day?
It is, and I'll tell you why. What we tend to focus on is the payback, is what life is going to do for me today. What we're if it to love that journey is to love what's inside, that growth you're making, that whole thing that when you get up and you say, well, I'm gonna, whatever happens today, I'm really going to put myself into it. I'm going to live moment to moment. I'm not going to set my expectations up that it has to be a certain way. I'm not going to look at quick fixes. I'm not going to look at these glorious destinations. I'm going to get into those breadcrumbs. I'm going to get into that stuff, and I'm going to love every little minute of it and stay right in the moment I'm living in, because that's the one I'm breathing in. I can't control what's coming down the road. What's done is done. All I have is what's right in front of me, and that is my journey. That moment, what's going on right there, that's what I love. And if you can do that, you start to see all the little things, all these things you typically miss, and you say, wow. If like just preparing for the podcast we're doing, I did, as you did, we had all the preparations, and I saw what you folks do, so I know this is how I can plug myself in there properly. And it was all these things, and then the interesting things start to happen. Now you start to get grateful, and you start to say, you know what? It's not grateful for what I got or what someone gave me. It's the gratitude is already in me, and instead of it coming in from the outside, it's in me, and I wrap it around everything I touch. Now you're in a whole
Oh,
different
I
way of
love
living.
that. Oh my God. That's awesome. That is like it's deep. That
And when you
is
get
some
there, it feels so
awesome.
good because you already know that whatever happens, you're going to find something good in it, because the good is already
Mhm.
in here. You're already
Yeah.
feeling grateful for little things. You're not expecting anything from anyone. You don't have to have something a certain way. You can just walk outside and say, whatever happens, I know I'm going to find good stuff in there because I already got it here. And that when you get to that point,
Right, and
life
that's yeah.
changes. That's where the journey gets so good.
Mhm.
Yeah, I've
Right,
seen
and
I've
that's
seen
that's
that.
also it's about peace.
Yeah, I've seen that a lot
Oh no, go
because
ahead.
I mean, when you see people out in the world and you see some of the most happy people and some of the most grateful people, those are people who are givers. Those are people who are constantly doing things for others. And I think for me, I'm kind of like that in a sense because I like to help other people, and that's where I get the most gratification from. Not necessarily doing things that make me happy, but doing things that make other people happy as well. So, I mean, for me, that's what works for me. That doesn't work for everybody, So, but I'm a person that's pretty happy majority of the time. And people always ask me, why are you always so happy? Why are you always smiling? And I do that because I find the good in everybody and the good in everything. Even if I know that there's a bad situation or a negative situation occurring, I always try to see the positive in everything that I do and everybody that I come across.
It's interesting, Ken, that you're talking about that. I do a chapter in the book called Being in Service of Other People. And it's a latter part of the program because when you get to the point that you've gone through the humility and the gratitude and all those things, and you get to a point that you really feel good about yourself, none of it means anything until you give it away, until you're willing to take everything
Oh
that you've
yeah.
learned and what you've given and give it to other human beings. If you don't get to that
Mhm.
point, I'm not so sure you arrived. Okay, you got what you wanted for
Right.
yourself, but until you give it away, which is what we should be all about, because how does the whole world get better if we're not willing to take what we've done and give it to other people? Because then hopefully they pass it on, and that's what this is all about. So, in the latter parts of the program that I'm teaching, that in service part is huge. Then you really start to love your life, and that's when you get to a
Hmm.
point where you're getting up every day and you're doing what you're doing and you're giving it away, and then you start liking your life and then loving your life, and that's what's going to lead to self-love. And until you get to that point, challenge you, I don't think you ever love yourself.
I
Oh yeah,
agree.
I wholeheartedly agree. You're talking about sort of getting to the latter of the book, and one of the things I want to ask you a serious question based on chapter 34, extending pure love to others. No relationship is perfect, but but the love that can bind it is. So you talk about how to apply love in our lives and then apply it to other people. Um, right now there is so much tension in the world. There's just so much going on, and sometimes you just hate to turn on the news. You don't want to watch it. I literally I'm like Big Ken. I'm such a happy person. I don't want to watch negative stuff, but it exists and it's there. But right now, the world is just so angry. Where do we start the love? Where do we start? How do getting from the anger to the love? Where is it that we can all start?
That's why I wrote the book, because it's a step-by-step process. And what you're really doing is, we can complain about the world all we want. We have to create this world in here that we like, that we want to get up to every day. Because if I look at those things in the world, and my question to myself isn't, I don't comment, oh, this world this, oh, this world that, because everyone's doing it and doesn't change anything. I always ask myself, what are you going to do to make whatever whoever you're touching today a little bit better? I have to somewhere along the line be accountable to myself and to my fellow humans, and so I need to know that there's some type of a plan on my part, so that I'm going to go out just like I'm doing now, and I'm talking to you about this. I'm trying to move a message that maybe someone's going to grab, one person maybe is going to grab. uh, but in my dealings with everyone every day, I need to know that I have something to bring to them. And before I do that, I got to fix everything in here. I got to like what I'm creating, and if I do, I will love the life I'm living. That's where love starts. Because I hear this in
Right,
self help all the time. Got to love yourself, and nobody says how to do it. You know, Again, there we go
right,
with
right,
another one of
right.
those things. The answer to how you do it is to create a life that is one that is where you're learning all the time, where you're giving, where you're grateful for things, you're humble and willing to learn more. You get your arrogance and your anger down, all those things, and you start talking to yourself real well, so that you can move ahead every day and say, I'm getting up, I'm feeling good, I'm interacting with my world, I'm loving everyone that I touch because I like my world. I'm creating a world of love in me. If I do that
Hmm.
first, I will give it to other people. They will respond back in a positive fashion. Now I'm getting some things, and we got this whole reciprocal thing going. And that's what I'm trying to get to people. And what I found is, if you do that, people respond. We're just not doing it. We're now
Right,
grabbing
right.
onto this anger. And the problem is, it's anger with no plan to move
Yeah.
forward. So what will happen is we just keep repeating the anger, and we'll just do it different
Mhm.
ways. I mean, I've been around over 60 years. I remember going back to the demonstrations in Watts. I can remember all those things. And we're doing the same things. Because no one's saying, let's sit down and put together a plan. Let's love each other and put a plan together, and we can do it. I know we can do it, but we're not.
Right,
We're basing it on
right. Yeah.
anger and power and envy and whatever else goes on with that.
Yeah,
We
and,
just
and you're absolutely yeah. You're
You have to
absolutely
believe
right.
you
I
can change.
think
You have to
that
believe that you're going to go. You have to
yeah,
believe you can change
yeah.
your world, and then you have to be courageous enough to go out there and do it.
Takes some
And
time.
just
Yeah.
like we said before, when you go out,
That's where it kind of stops.
That's right. When you go out there, it's just like I said before. When you go out and you try to be courageous and positive, the naysayers are going to shoot you down as fast as they can,
Oh
because
yeah.
and the
Oh
reason
yeah.
is
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
they don't want to put themselves on the line because they're afraid they're going to get hurt. So let me be anger. Let me put that out there because that's kind of like my shield. I'm not going to get hurt. And you know what? You are going to get hurt. If you're going to go be positive and try to do what I'm telling you to do, you're going to get some pain. So people are going to come at you. Factor it in. We want to change the world. It's going to get uncomfortable before it gets comfortable. But are you willing to do it? I mean, on my end, I know I am. That's all I can know. I can
Yeah.
only know that for me.
do do your part, exactly. The Fix Yourself Handbook, it really is. It's almost like, and I don't want to say what it is or isn't, but to me, just kind of reading through it, it's like, it is life's reference book. It's almost like, okay, you know what did he say about love? Let me go back to that chapter. What did he say about anger? Let me go back to that chapter. And it's like you can keep referencing it, you can keep going back to it, and you just got to pick it up. But
I'm thinking maybe when
people
I
still have that
put this book
fear.
together, you must have been in the room somewhere because that's exactly what it is. It's a book. It's a journey to help change your life, but it's written in short chapters with all the steps to do that. So a year down the road, maybe you say, "I think I'm envying people again, or I'm people pleasing, or whatever I'm doing." What did he say about that? Let me go back and get that. And so
Yeah, you
you
go,
want to have
yeah,
that
and that's,
reference
yeah, that's
always
exactly what it
available
is.
to you.
Yeah, it's a
Absolutely.
nice reference manual. And then also because it's bite size, it's perfect for today's society because we have a
Yeah,
microwave society. They want
Yeah.
everything gratification, they want it quick. So this is
yeah,
a quick read. You can go to that chapter. They're not long, they're quick chapters. You can read it and reaffirm whatever you're trying to find in those chapters. And if you want to read the whole book again, and it's in bite-sized pieces, so you won't get full off of it
yeah.
and you can
It's,
digest it very
yeah.
well.
It's like it's bridging the gap between, the younger generation, my generation. So it's sort of, it helps everyone. You just got to get past that fear of thinking that there's nothing wrong with you, with something wrong with someone else. You got to pick the book up and you got to read it. It helps. I mean, I know I was, this is, you're gonna laugh at this, Faust, because look, I had this, there was a time where I could not watch the Oprah Winfrey Show because I was so jealous of her. And it's like when she would come on, it's funny. It's funny now, but I would literally turn the channel because I was jealous of Oprah. I was jealous of anyone that I felt was doing what I wanted to do, and they were out there in the public and they were doing it better than me. But then it got to the point when I was like, girl, you rock. You pick up that mic and you do stuff, and I have not stopped. I got past my fears. And honestly, I literally, I have to read some books to help encourage me, to help motivate me, and books like yours, Faust, to tell me that I'm okay. I'm good. You can do this. It's okay. You got, like you said, you have to go through the journey. You have to take the steps. You got to do the process. And I did it. And I feel like I am living like this high right now because I'm doing so much stuff, because I acknowledge to myself that, okay, um, you're gonna have to get right. And I did. And I wasn't embarrassed. And now I can watch Oprah because that's my girl, So, but but I had to get past all of that, and it is really funny because I used to tell my aunt all the time, I can't watch Oprah. I'm jealous of her.
I got to tell you,
I want to do what she
when you
does.
said I want to watch Oprah because she's my girl, we laughed. But what went through my head is, I don't think Oprah's your girl. I think you are.
You did.
You did it.
I'm my girl. I'm my girl. I
I
did.
mean,
You're
you did it.
right. You're
See
absolutely
what
right. Let me take that credit. I
you
did
conquered that. You conquered that is what you did. You had to put her aside because it caused you too much pain.
it.
And you said just what we've been saying
Exactly.
all along. I'm going to
Exactly.
keep on doing this. I'm going to keep on doing it till I get it. And she may be someone you really admire, but now it's about you. That's nice to
Yes,
hear.
me right
Yep.
here.
And we have to look
So,
at things like that too, and understand that Oprah had somebody that she admired as well.
Absolutely.
So you have to turn
right,
that
right.
energy into positive energy and propel yourself rather than hold yourself back. So, you know.
Yeah, and it's like I look at people like you, Faust, and everyone that writes the genuine self-help books, those books that can really, really, really help me and help other people, books that I can share. And I am so glad that you wrote a literal a help. I mean, it really is life's reference book. It really is. And I know you've given us a lot of tips, but I want to see if you can leave us with three tips that can help us on the journey to live a happy and healthy life. Where do we start? What are some tips?
First one, and that I always tell people is stop thinking that it's out there that you have to focus. Everything you need, God didn't create us empty. Everything you need is already here, but you
Mm,
stop looking for it. You stop going inside to get it. Okay. That's the first thing I tell
mhm,
people. It's already in there. All you're going to do is go in and get it and start to learn how to define it and then how to apply it. That's all I did. That's all any of us that are working these programs did. It's what you when you look at it, it's what you did to get past Oprah and everybody else.
mhm,
You did that. That's the first thing I tell people is. The second thing is do not be afraid of what you define as failure. Reinterpret that. A failure is not something that should knock you down. It simply says you in that situation you moved far enough to get to the point where you didn't have enough information again. So now you get past that point, you stop, you pick yourself up, get more information, and keep going. The failure doesn't end anything. It's a continuous process that will eventually get you to your goal. It just simply says you had to learn a little bit more, and that's a normal process. It's the way we should do things. And the last thing I tell
mhm.
people is, you do already love yourself. You just don't know it. You're
Mm.
piling all this garbage on
Oh,
you. It's already in there. If you didn't love yourself, you wouldn't keep trying. And sometimes those efforts you're making look like you're just making a mess of things. You already love yourself.
mhm.
Go in there and get that love inside yourself first. When you do that, you'll turn it loose on everyone else. And that's what we want.
I know you said in the sort of in the middle of the show that you are going to walk away from the show learning more, but I gotta tell you that this is one of those shows that you put on repeat because you gave so much information, so much knowledge, so much that not only that me and Big Ken can use, but our viewers as well. And I saw a lot of people chiming in and asking questions, and I wanted to read that question I read earlier, but I want to thank you so much. I mean, you truly have helped us. And I know that people have to go out and get this handbook, Fix Yourself Handbook, because it truly is one of those books that you can look back. There are some books you read and you're like, I don't, you'll read it one time, but not this one. It's one of those you carry it with you, keep it in the back seat of your car, I'm serious, to get the anger out, to always kind of, I think my big thing is the internal love before I can give external love. And but anyway, I can go on and on and on because this was one of those shows that you just put on repeat because it was so informative. But I want to thank you so much for joining us today. You have left us with knowledge, and which is always one of the important points of the show. So thank you so much for
Well,
being on
I
the
have to tell
show.
you, when we initially started talking about this, and I saw you folks doing this, I said, boy, that's a nice fit for me. And I communicated with you, and you said, yeah, that looks really good. And so I kind of thought this might be nice. And I got to tell you, it exceeded everything I thought. And
Thank you so
not only did I
much.
think
Thank
we
you.
helped some people, I had just a fantastic time with both of you. So let's
Good.
do it
Thank
again
you.
sometime. I'm
Of course, we
thrilled to
love
Definitely.
have
guests to
people.
come back. Yeah, we love guests to come back. Now, for all those out there watching this show, and I know there are a lot of you, you guys can check out and learn more about Faust and Fix Yourself Handbook. You can visit Faust. I know how to say it. Ruggiero,
You
Ruggiero,
got
Ruggiero. But I want to spell it. I want to spell it. So, because I know we're gonna put it, I know we're gonna post it, but I want them to know because you got to get this book. It's Faust, Faust. The last name is Ruggiero.com. You can also buy the book on Amazon and wherever books like Faust are sold. Again, thank you so much, and we would
Thank
love
you.
for you to come back on the show. Um,
Definitely.
Yeah, because we could talk forever about self-help.
That's wonderful. Anytime you want, I'm here. So
Thank you.
All
again,
right.
it's been a privilege.
Thank
It's been,
you.
it's been a lot of fun.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You too. Thanks.
That was so awesome. One of the parts of the show, it's so crazy that I almost wanted to get emotional, was when you talk about the life you live. You only
Mhm.
have one life. This is it. When you're born, and then, like he said, when you take your last breath, and it's those things
Yeah.
that you do in between that make the difference. And man, that was God, that was so awesome. It just almost made me feel so emotional, because it's like I really thought about those words that he said.
Yeah.
And man,
That means a lot, because I tell people all the time, everybody leaves a legacy. You go to funerals and you go to wakes and stuff like that, and you see people get up and start talking about this person, and you're like, I didn't see any of that stuff that you're talking about. Where'd that
right.
come from? But you
Yeah.
want to be one of those
Yeah.
people who are
Yeah.
happy, who are infectious. When you go out, you're doing things, you're helpful. So that when your life comes to an end and people have to stand up there and say those things, they really mean them, because you really had such a
Yeah.
positive effect on them. So,
Right.
people, go out and get this book. I'm definitely going to order the book. I'm going to read it. I have a
Yes.
shelf
Yes.
here. I tell Tori all the time, I have a shelf right here full of self-help books.
All these
And
books we order.
some of them definitely are one-time reads,
Yeah.
you know, and
Yeah.
they've
But
won
not
all these
not
awards. And
this.
I'm like,
Yeah.
but no, not
Yeah.
this book. I had a chance to kind of skim through it. I had a chance to read it in full, but it's a lot of information in small bite-sized pieces. So get the book, check
Easy,
it
easy,
out. A
easy to
lot of
digest.
information.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
you can digest it on your own time. You don't have to read it all at once. It's a book that you can skip around and kind of find the things that you might be looking for specifically at that time, but you'll have a chance and also to read it in its totality, and it really affects your life. I'm sure of it.
Oh yeah.
So I
Yeah. Oh
don't I
yeah.
don't endorse a lot of things, but I'm pretty sure this book is a short shot for you.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, so we thank Faust Ruggiero for being on the show today. And as always, remember you can catch KUTC live right here on Facebook every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Or if you missed the show, you can visit blacklineentertainment.com. At the end of
Mhm.
every show, we end it with a positive quote. And this week's quote is, "You must do the things you think you cannot do.
Very
Do it, do it,
fitting.
do it." Yes, very fitting for the show, don't you think?
Yep.
All right. Until next time.
Make sure you all keep up the conversation. Peace.